Okay, so I promised to someone to make to Danny Balchunas and a Facebook friend to make my next video in English. I and my English is not good, poor, and I don't have basics like college knowledge, right? And but my technical and racing English is fair, I think, because I spent some time communicating with the people abroad about our sport, and well, it's a lot better when I am not sober, and I think it's still better than your Lithuanian, you know. Yeah, but never mind. Yeah, what I want. Most of my videos, they are dedicated to grassroots races, and I often receive comments of my colleagues who say, "Oh, it's cool, but it's for rookies, for people who don't know the sport and like not much into it." Right. And the same thing about my knowledge and experience is that I'm quite new to sport. Say my experience is something like 15 years, maybe a little bit more. But it was intense. I mean, I did work hard and built quite a few cars and helped service them, helped people on tracks in Lithuania, in UK, in Ukraine, in etc. and Emirates, yeah, you know. And if I can share some knowledge with you, guys, who some of you are English, my English-speaking friends are a lot more experienced than me, is the only thing perhaps is racing on airfields, right? I don't know if you know that, but we drag race on plain airfields, right? Old Russian military airfields or renovated recently airfields that are either tarmac or concrete plates, right? And because we live in a cold climate, concrete plates, they walk because of ice, and they get gaps and steps, and they are quite bumpy. And it is very different, hardly comparable to what you call non-prep. Non-prep on permanent tracks is when there is no special preparation the day before on the same day on a race day. In Lithuania, Latvia, Ukraine, you just have regular old airfield that is dusty. Also, because they don't have guardrails, and airfields they are built without any relief. I mean, it's flat. The side grass is flat. It's the same level, because if airplane lands and he misses a track or he cannot stop on time, there should be grass, even smooth, after the tarmac or concrete. And the problem with this is that if you have side wind, doesn't matter how properly you clean track, you always have wind bringing tiny bits of grass and dust over the field. So sometimes you put a lot of effort to clean airfield. We do it with high pressure washers that are on the trailers, and we dilute water with a so-called concrete primer, and we wash it every foot. I mean, wherever a car can get on, and then we try to do as heavy burnouts as we can to lay the rubber on it. So people attempted to do gluing, but as most people know, if you don't put rubber on the track, the glue is not really that effective. It can make it worse even, right? We have tried gold dust. We have tried everything, right? And I started this sport as a promoter and we try to reinvent VHT glue and OVP glue, mixing various substances and powders, and we found that the first thing you need is actually rubber, right, to make the track a better condition. Some Scandinavians who went to Russia, they think we have similar tracks. No, Russians, they had a lot of help from Finnish guys with good knowledge, and they have 100 times a budget that we have. So if you believe that Russian tracks are bad, they're not. They especially now they got knowledge themselves, and they have funds to prep tracks. So maybe comparing to NHRA or say top European or Arabic tracks, they are not as good, but they are not any worse than your non-prep tracks in USA. Nevertheless, we don't blame organizers or promoters for not preparing tracks, and we say to ourselves that the track is always equally bad for every racer. So if someone can run decent ETs on particular track, that means nobody can complain running slower. It's just they're not smart enough as that guy who ran good times. Also, since they are all temporary tracks, investing a lot of money into track condition is it can be a waste of money, because military airfields usually they belong to our military, and they can ban you from racing there anytime they want, and they don't have to explain, and they will never write a contract with you. Right, and international airports, they are very strict on safety stuff, and they are really, it's a hard time to deal with them. If you pour some fuel on a track, you will have huge fines, and they give you bad schedules. We only do land speed racing on like for 3 to 4 hours in between flights in international airports, functioning airports. Right, so what can I tell? That most people who are experienced in drag racing but never been on airfields, never been racing on airfields, they don't really remember those years when your own tracks were bad, and people forgot how to set up the cars. And often I speak to someone who seems to be knowledgeable about racing on airfield. But I only know few people who still remember 70s and how they baseline the cars, how they build them, and to run straight on airfield, right? And so if you mean that you race non-prep, you don't know what real non-prep is. As a proof that we are quite good at racing on airfields, we have our national record of 7.6 second ET. And the car is unsuspended, altered, that ran this result on bare tarmac. No glue, no touch of glue at all. Right, and it's unsuspended short wheelbase car, 125 inch wheelbase, and I think they run 7/8 or 7/7 with even shorter wheelbase, like 115 inch wheelbase. So I think this is quite good. I don't know how you take this, but what we have done, we have learned things from books, from old books, which I don't think anybody reads them about suspension and chassis nowadays. And we found how to set the suspension, how to baseline the car, which is very different because now people are buying cars from USA and from England and they bring it on airfield and they just spin tires because it's this very big difference on a car baselining. What we want center of gravity as high as we possibly make it. If there is something heavy in a car and we positioning it as close to the roof as possible, because we want the car to squat, and we want to squat the car in a manner which is controllable. If say some people have better result putting a lot of weight to the trunk, to the rear of a car, and they believe this pushes the suspension down and makes the traction better. So this is just strong. I mean, you want everything in the center of a car, as close to the center of gravity of a car. And so our racing field, car design wise, is very different, very different. Even tire sizes and tire pressures and suspension setting, as I mentioned, center of gravity, everything is different. Yeah, but we are not moaning. I mean, we would love to have a good track. We would love to race on a good tracks. First of all, perhaps for safety reason, because the high-speed crash on a track that has no rails, it's really dangerous. It can be lethal. Well, it can be lethal anyway. But I mean, often we race on when we know we cannot put even 60% of the power that we can develop from a car. Say, it happened that every time we shift, we have a car sideways because of the wheel spin. So depending on how car is set, we normally just shift at lesser RPM or try to play with ignition advance or with suspension, with the tire pressures. And those guys who run sevens on a bare fields, they're really brave guys and good drivers. Sometimes looking at their runs it's really scary. You have to be mad to drive that fast, that quick on a airfield. Yeah, so this is also fun because say a car shoots properly, perhaps one run from 3 runs, right? So it's really unpredictable who is going to win, even if the car is a lot more powerful and it's still gambling. I mean, you can race and compete with someone who is a lot more technically advanced than you. It's a lot of lottery in that racing because, as I said, from 3 runs, 2 times people lift in a outlaw levels in a high power cars. Yep. So this one is our ambition to win competitions, first of all, on our airfields, and possibly one day we will take it to good tracks, to prep tracks. I mean, we don't fancy non-prep as such because we have enough of it ourselves. We see it every time we come to local races. Yeah. So, part 1 about our specific Lithuanian racing and our plans